Fury. So I should be clear that this won't be a review of Super Mario 3D World, but this is a review of the game that was not, I wouldn't even say it's an expansion. It's really like the game that they included in Super Mario 3D World. So Super Mario 3D World itself, just showing on the screen, was released back in 2013, 2014, 20 on the Wii U, and now has been ported and re-released on the Switch. And Nintendo decided to include a game called Bowser's Fury, which is like very odd. Like I can't help but say like this whole thing and the way that they set it up is very odd. So I always love this stuff and I get fascinated by it. Like, how do you even jump in the game? What does it even mean? I mean, Nintendo is describing this game as a new mode. So basically, once you open the game and jump into it, you're just presented with a screen at the start of the game saying, do you want to play Super Mario 3D World? Or you go to the right and you play Bowser's Fury. And then you go into it and it's as if it's like, that's its own game. Like almost like, All Stars or something like that, which immediately I thought was quite strange. This game, I have to say, I love it. Like I love this game. Kind of just jumping to the end of it, it's about 3 hours to complete it. So I think about a quarter of what it takes to get through Odyssey. But from a completion perspective, it's a lot shorter. So it's about 6 hours to do everything in it. I won't spoil too much about it, but I would say like it is so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. So initially, when we heard about
It's
it,
good to hear. Good to hear.
well, yeah, I thought it was going to be a bit like how Super Mario 3D World is. And just touching on that, again, we won't review that in this, but 3D World's an interesting one because Super Mario 3D Land, which came out on the 3DS before it, made a lot of sense for the 3DS. They took almost the 2D formula of Mario, made it into 3D, took advantage of the 3D in the 3DS, and made perfect sense for that console or handheld. 3D World to me was always a bit strange. I really like it, but it isn't necessarily a 3D Mario. It's definitely not a 2D Mario. It's, for me, really the one that's a hybrid of those two. And at times I feel like it has more in common with the new Super Mario Brothers series rather than the 3D Mario series, if that makes any sense. I think actually Nintendo have done the same thing as what I do, but I actually classify it in its own category. So it's almost like you've got the 2D games that Mario has, you've got the 3D sort of Mario 64 style games, and then you've got this other category, which is like the 3D World style games, because they are extremely linear. Now you've got like Bowser's Fury, which I'm just showing the steel case. Bowser's Fury is just so weird and it's like such a weird experiment from Nintendo. It actually reminds me a lot of Link's Awakening, where they wanted to port Link to the Past to the Game Boy, and then they sort of realized that didn't make a lot of sense, and they started experimenting and mucking around with the formula. And I think this often happens with Nintendo when they're under time pressure to put something out. Not saying that that's the case here, but who knows? They really have produced something that's quite odd. Like, and I really wish you guys, especially you, Swinny, just given that you have played most of the 3D Mario games and 2D Mario games, had a chance to play it and get your thoughts on it as well. It's a weird experiment. And like to describe it to you guys, it's, if you could imagine, with Odyssey, you have these sandbox levels and they are huge, but they are pretty sandboxy. Like you pretty much can do most of what you want from the start. It's a little bit of, tiny bit of linearity, but generally pretty sandboxy. But with this, it's hard to describe it. You've got an entire world that is literally like probably 3 times the size of any level in Odyssey. So it's massive and you're only in one world. So like from an Odyssey context, it's just like you've got one world to play in. It's massive, but it is pretty structured in terms of how you're meant to progress through it in a way. It doesn't really reward you just going off the beaten path like Mike style in Skyrim. Just, okay, that's the main quest. I'm just going to skip all of that and do all the side quests, which is cool. You kind of do need to progress through the main sort of cat shines and story beats that you need to do, but you do hit a point. So like I said, completion is about 6 hours. Beating the game, quote unquote, is about 3. You get that halfway point and then it really just becomes a sandbox game where, you can go and do any cat shines you want. And as I said, it's like so strange because 3D World has no real ability. You can move the camera a little bit, but most of the camera movement is all scripted. And as I said, that's what makes it sort of a bit of a mishmash in between 2D and 3D Marios. Whereas this game, Bowser's Fury, actually uses the engine for 3D World, the mechanics of 3D World, but gives you a free camera, and it makes the game feel like heaps different.
Does it feel closer to 3D World or Odyssey?
I honestly, I feel like, to me personally, I feel like it feels more like Sunshine mixed with Odyssey. Like, that's the vibe really I got from it. And like, I say more like Sunshine because Sunshine, out of any Mario game, kind of stuck to a theme more so than any other Mario game that I can think of.
Definitely, yeah.
And that's like this. Like, I can understand people not loving this. I'll just say now, I can't understand IGN giving it a 7 out of 10 as a package. That's insane to me. Like, you know, I can understand people saying they don't love it, right? I just think...
I love those messages. You're so angry.
Well, it's just, like, to be honest, like, I just think it's a bit of edgelord stuff. I get it, there's subjectivity, obviously, but at the same time, if someone turns around and goes, oh, Shakespeare's rubbish and trash, it's just like, I just don't think you get it, man.
7 isn't even that bad of a score, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay, like, there's a huge difference if you are normalizing the scores. I think if you and I and Mike, we give our scores, we're actually normalizing it. So, like, a 5 is still okay. But in IGN scale, the reality is no game gets under 7. Like, it has to be a complete mess to get under 7, right? Because they're getting paid off and they want to advertise games and do all that kind of stuff. And they want the money from the publishers. Allegedly, they do.
So I haven't read the review, but what made him give it that score?
I think a combination of many things, but I think, you know, he felt that it just didn't hit the highs of other Mario games. Now, I totally agree with that. Like, 3D World does not hit... It is not my favorite Mario game.
But this, by the way, sorry, as the Mario... So just for everyone else who hasn't played these games, this is the same one that was on the Wii U?
So, Super Mario 3D World, I'm showing it on the screen. Super Mario 3D World released on the Wii U about 7 years ago.
Yep.
IGN gave that 9.6 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
Then they took that game, they improved it a bit, so it runs a bit better. It's a higher resolution, and they increased the speed of the movement, which I actually really love that they've done that. Now playing it, then Nintendo also added Bowser's Fury, which is like a 3 to 6 hour game, right? It doesn't take anything away from Super Mario 3D World. It's just like a new game that they added in, right? And like an Astro's Playroom style size of game, you know? Just to give you context, which I love. I wish there was more games like that, to be honest, because it's easier to play through. I was able to play it to completion. And then they gave it 7 out of 10. It just
that doesn't make sense to me, because it's as if, for example, you give Dark Souls a 9.8 and then you give the remaster, which is the same game with all sorts of stuff added to it and improved, a 7. But that wouldn't make sense.
No, but it does make sense because it's different reviewers. It's not the same person reviewing.
No, but that's what I mean. It's a different thing.
They can't hide behind that
company.
It's a masthead, man. It's a masthead.
Yeah.
It's not Cam Shea's review. He reviewed it, but he reviewed it for IGN. They've got to stand behind it, right? And listening to their own podcast on it, they were a bit like, it's still a great game. We all loved it. Like, we might have gave it 9 out of 10. You know, don't kill us type of thing.
Yeah, but
why don't you give it a 9 out of 10 then?
It's not like it's... No, I disagree with that. It's the reviewer's review. It's not IGN's review.
No, I think it's IGN's review. I think when you work for a company, it's the company's view at that point, not you as a journalist within that.
No,
and you have editors and
I
stuff
completely
too.
disagree. I think it is still the reviewer's review at that point.
You know why?
I don't think it is.
You know why you're wrong, Swinny?
People don't look at reviews. I don't even know who this guy is. All I know is who
he's an
IGN
Australian
is.
reviewer, which is unfortunate. He actually, I used to, well, you know, I really like the guy. I disagree with his opinion on this, and I like the guy.
We shouldn't diss the guy, by the way.
No, I like the guy. He's actually a cool guy. Yeah. I've liked a lot of other reviews he's done. He did a lot of great work for Hyper. I just totally disagree with him on this, but everyone's got different opinions. That's what makes the world.
Well, cool. Clearly, because even between us, we have a different opinion. And I think you as well, Integot, feel that when you work for a company, you represent that company, and anything that goes out is a representation of what that company puts out. And a lot of people don't even know who the hell a reviewer is. They're like, they don't even read the name of the person that reviewed it. They just go, IGN said that, this is 7. So, and I'm one of those idiots. So,
And Swinny, like explain why I don't think you're right, even by IGN's own logic, because there was the ex-editor for IGN for the Nintendo component, Philip Mewson, who plagiarized and stole reviews from people, and IGN owned up to that. They said, yes, we did. This person did it in our staff, but we're IGN, and it's our reviews. And they went and re-reviewed that game. So they didn't hide behind, hey, that's just a person, that's his review, that's not us. They did say it's our review.
That's a very different situation to compare to.
Why?
Because that is an exception to everything. Like that was a situation where they had to take action. No, I don't think, honestly, this is just difference of opinion. I don't think one's right or one's wrong. It's just different take.
Yeah.
I feel that, when you've got multiple people, if it was the same, if it was just one person on one site, that's different. To me, I actually like the fact that if people know that they're going to like this game already, right? Honestly, at this point, you're just looking to confirm, or people do this. They actively go look at bad reviews just to get pissed off and comment on it. We know that, right? I've done that in the past. But it's just...
Integot just did it.
Yeah, I just think that, to me, it's directly about when you're talking about the drop from their previous score to this one. It's just a different reviewer, different opinion. That's all.
Fair point.
Yeah,
okay,
and look,
I think we should all just agree that you're wrong and we're right, and move on.
Can I just say, because I do want to get it back and close out the review, but for me, it's more, to me, he failed to mount the case of why it's a 7 out of 10.
Oh, that's fair enough.
I think you could mount the case at 7 out of 10. As I said, if I did a tier list, and we should do this actually sometime, Swinny, a tier list of 3D Mario games, off the top of my head, I'd probably rank 3D World ahead of Sunshine, but that would probably be it. So, I'm not saying I'm a huge lover of 3D World, but even saying that, to me, Odyssey and Mario 64 are 10 out of 10 games. So, the only thing I can look at is you're looking at these insane highs, and then you're looking at 3D World and Bowser's Fury, and you go, well, it doesn't reach that high. But that's still, to me, a minimum of an 8 out of 10. Minimum. I think as a package, to me, I'd probably put this as an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to go, what's your actual review? Because we spent more time talking about someone else's review.
No, we didn't.
Than you talking about the bloody review
Bowser's Fury,
to do.
as I said, I don't like to spoil things, so I won't spoil how many cat shines are in the game. But as I said, I was shocked at how much is in the game. And I love the way that they go about it. It's so fascinating. There's one aspect of the game that I'll touch on is and you'd appreciate this, Swinny, Donkey Kong 64. So one thing about Donkey Kong 64 is you have the different Kongs and they have different abilities. And one frustration people have is there's certain things you need to get in that game to get all the collectibles. You need to go back and switch out the Kongs, and it's a nightmare. This game actually has a mechanic that I wonder if they will pick up in the next 3D Mario game, where you have Bowser Jr. and he actually holds power-ups for you. And you can switch between power-ups. So you can switch between Cat Mario or the Tanuki Suit Mario almost at will eventually, because you get so many of these power-ups banked up. I was just switching back and forth to whatever I needed for the situation. And for the most part, you probably don't essentially need it. There are some parts where it's okay, I have to be Cat Mario to get through this. But I would love them to explore that a bit further. It actually gave a bit of a, almost a Breath of the Wild vibe to it, where, the powers that you have in Breath of the Wild, where I could imagine them really playing into that even harder. And it was really good fun to play a Mario game where it felt like the power-ups were more essential than they generally are normally. I could almost skip those power-ups.
You mentioned Zelda, and I was thinking it's kind of like Miora's Mask and Majora's Mask, how you swap between the different, Goron Link and Zora Link and stuff like that.
And that was another game that I was going to touch on. It has that Nintendo vibe about it to me of a Majora's Mask, Link's Awakening, where it's it does feel like a bit of an experiment from Nintendo. And I love the way that they've included it with this game, because I feel that if they had released this as a standalone game, I'm not sure how much I'd price it at. Too much, given Nintendo standards. And I think people would be really annoyed if this was even a 40 Australian dollars. I don't think it would be worth it. But having said that, I really wish you'd actually played through it, or you will get the chance to one day, because it's a really fun, weird experiment. I'd say Bowser's Fury, to me, I'd probably give it 8 out of 10. I don't think it's as good as 3D World, but I did love it. And it's just probably one of the things that I don't see myself anytime soon going back to playing, if that makes sense. It's just really odd, really fun, really weird the way it's presented. The boss fights, so the sort of Super Saiyan Cat Mario segments, Nintendo never does boss fights very well. And I think that's the case in this case as well. It's just a bit like, okay, just getting through it. It's nothing exciting. But yeah, very, very solid game. Really liked it. Do you think you'll pick it up, Swinny, or?
I dispute that. I think Zelda boss fights are very well done. But if you're talking Mario,
no, sorry, I
that's
said Mario. Mario boss fights. Sorry,
Okay.
Did I say Nintendo boss fights? Oh, I meant Mario boss fights.
Yeah. Look, I will probably eventually get it. There is a part of me, just like with Mario Kart 8, where I have it on the Wii U and I just haven't played it. So it's like I feel like I'm spending money on something that I haven't even should have experienced already. And that's my problem. It's got nothing to do with Nintendo. That's just the reason why I haven't gone and picked it up. Plus, also, I'm just crazy bastard in the middle of all this RPG.
Well, I can, next time I'm down in Melbourne, I can lend you it, because it is a game that
I actually want to play
hours.
it too. I want to play it. If you have it, I wouldn't mind playing it.
Oh,
I actually want to play the original Super Mario 3D World, obviously.
Well, you should get it. You should get it, because we can play it online.
Yeah, I want to get it, but it's $70, and what Swinny just said, I'll play like 10 minutes of it, and then I'll go, oh shit, I've got all these other games I got to play, and a course I got to do, and work that finishes at 7, 8 p.m.
And I should say, I also got the the Cat Mario and the Cat Peach amiibo as well. That looks really sick. So yeah, 8 out of 10 I'd give Bowser's Fury. Really, really enjoyed it.
All right, I was just actually, just real quick, sorry, before Swinny goes on, I was back to the, hey, we don't pay that much for games. So the game's $69 for us at most major retailers. And that actually only comes down to $53 US, which is pretty good when you consider that's a $60 US game in a lot of places in the US.
I think,
so again, it just surprises me. It's so much cheaper than the US.
I think for you, it's more like, do you want to play it? Because you're not a big 3D Mario person, but I do understand Swinny's perspective. Like, if I had, now that I've played through Bowser's Fury, I had a copy of 3D World on the Wii U. It is not a $70 DLC. It's just not. Like, it's not worth it. But for someone who hasn't played 3D World, value. It's an insane value. It's so good value. Like, the fact that you can get this for 70 Australian dollars, which, like Mike said, is about $50 US, you get 3D World and Bowser's Fury. It's crazy. It's like crazy value. So yeah, if Swinny never had 3D World, it to me would be a must buy. But I think if you had 3D World, it's definitely more of a, can you get someone to lend you a copy of it and play it that way? Because it is very short relative. Like, you don't need to collect everything. So you really can get the most out of it in about 2 to 3 hours. So... All right, Swinny, over to you for the last review of the show.
Yeah, so this week I've been